way over. Started a year earlier, and had a dinner. And as we all know, the fans, all of us fans, Elvis was a real badge collector, and he had seen this badge that was internationally honored at a dinner that we were at. And I think in the back of his mind that started, because that was the ultimate badge for him. He could be an officer at large, is that what he said, Bud?
A federal agent at large.
Federal agent at large. And so anyway, it's one of those times where I quit working for Elvis and I'm trying to learn film, and I'm working in Paramount Film, and I get a call in the middle of the night time. Not the middle of the night, but I'm asleep. And it's Elvis on the phone, and he says, I go, who is this? He says, it's me. And I go, Elvis? And he says, yeah. And he said, could you pick me up at the airport? And I'm in Los Angeles. And I said, yeah, who's with you? And he said, nobody. And I don't want anybody in the world to know where I am. That was the start. And I go to LAX, I pick him up. We go to what is considered the Hillcrest House in Hollywood, Beverly Hills. Elvis insisted, he was the last guy off the plane. And at that time you could drive up to the plane, and I had a limousine. And he came down, he had a little cardboard box. And don't forget, this is the first time Elvis never traveled by himself. And first time he traveled by himself. And I said, what is that? He says, my luggage. It was a, little box they gave you on the plane in first class or something. So anyway, but he had promised that we'd take all the stewardesses home. So now it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we get to the Hillcrest house. He's tired, I'm tired, we're gonna go to sleep, and I realize I can't go to sleep. I'm the only guy in the world who knows where Elvis Presley is. So I stay up all night. Elvis gets up in the afternoon. I hadn't seen him in a few months. We have coffee overlooking the city. Just two friends talking. It was one of those special days. And toward the end of the day, he said, I'm going back to Washington. I need you to go with me. And I said, I can't. I've got this new job at Paramount. And he said, I'll get a Learjet to fly you back. Well, he had told me that afternoon that he left Memphis because Vernon and Priscilla were upset with him because he had spent so much money. So I sure as hell wasn't going to let him do a Learjet. And he had some problems coming out.
You're my sister, okay?
I don't understand why he had problems. He had 3 guns on the plane. This would never happen today. And Bud, he got mad because they said he couldn't have, because he had credentials. He walked off the plane in Dallas, where he was changing planes to meet me. The pilot got off an American Airlines flight, said, it's okay, Mr. Presley. Came back on with his guns.
Wouldn't happen today.
Wouldn't happen today. So I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want him to fly by himself. So we do the all-nighter flight. And on that flight was the first time I got any indication of what his intentions were. I knew he was going to go back to meet John Finlater.
John Finlater, Deputy Director of the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs.
I knew he was going to have that meeting, he had told me, but during the flight he said, do you think they have any stationery? And so I got the stewardess, who was stewardess days, to get some American Airlines stationery, and that's when he wrote the letter to the president and asked me to proofread it. So I'm sitting there with Elvis Presley, reading a letter to the President of the United States and proofreading it. And I just looked at Elvis and I said, he was sitting here, I was at the window seat. I said, I think it's just great just the way it is, because it was right from his heart. and then we arrived in Washington. And I guess I have to say how the letter got there.
We've got to get the message to Bud.
So now I've been up 2 days. It's dawn the second day from the all-nighter flight from Los Angeles to Washington. And Elvis has the letter sealed up, and as Bud witnessed, the closer we got to Washington, he would put, "For the president only," on the outside. Then he would write personally, confidential, all the. And it's 6:30 a.m. in the morning. He said, "We need to drop this by the White House." And I said, "Elvis, don't you want to go to the hotel? I mean, I don't even know if the White House is open."
It is.
And he said, "No, I got to drop this by now." So we get to the guard gate, and he said, "You just stay in the car." And Elvis was, it was the 70s. It was Superfly days. He was even dressed a little radical for Elvis. Not that I was a fashion model, but he had the high collar, he had the cane. His hair was a little longer than usual. And it's kind of dark, and he gets out of this limousine. He could have been the first terrorist as far as the White House security went. It wasn't going well, so I jumped out of the car, and I went, "Excuse me, gentlemen, this is Mr. Elvis Presley. He just wants to drop off a letter to the president." And they were really nice. And they said, "Senator so-and-so is coming up at 7, and then we went to the hotel.
And then the wheels, I can see this letter being handed off from person to person with confidential, personal, eyes only written all over it. How does news of its arrival get to you?
Well, we were working at 6:30. I think I got a call from Dwight Chapin around 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and he said, "Buddy, you sitting down?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "The king is here." And I looked at the president's schedule. I said, "There aren't any kings." He said, "No, not any to be a king. The king. He's here." And he said, and he wants to see the president today. Well, I belong to a group of guys that regularly played practical jokes on each other, and I had just executed one against Dwight Chapin that I thought was particularly embarrassing and creative. So this was payback time. I said, "No."
Like us guys.
Like us guys, that's right, the way we are today. So he said, "I'll send this letter over to you that he's written to the president." Well, a messenger brought it over, and I took it and I started reading it just as you opened up, Tom. My name is Elvis Presley, and it goes on, so I'm a great admirer of you and your office. I'd like to help the country out. I can go into any group of people and be well accepted. I just want to help the country out. I don't want anything more. I'd like to be made a federal agent at large. Well, 9 o'clock in the morning, well, we don't have those. But now, you have to understand, I, like you, was one of the great Elvis Presley fans. And I never went on a date without Elvis, and he was very helpful. So you have to understand that is this real or not? And at the end of the letter it said, "I'm staying over at the Washington Hotel under the name of John Burroughs." So I figured, well, Chapin, you're pretty good. You can set the stuff through. I called over the hotel, and I think you answered the phone, Jerry.
He said, "You can contact my PR man."
My PR, Jerry Schilling. So I go over and it says, "This is Jerry Schilling," and I said, "This is Bud Krog, and I've got this letter from Elvis Presley. I don't think it's for real." And then you said, "Yes, he wrote it on the plane coming in last night." I go, "God, Chapin, you are really good. You just set this whole thing up." Well, I can get into the rest of the story later because when we were together. But anyway, I said, "Why don't you come on over to the White House and let's talk about this?" So I think it was probably in a half an hour, 45 minutes. Elvis had come back from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, picked you up.
Well, actually, just a little injection. He had left me his number at Finlater's office.
That's right. Okay.
And I had told Bud, I said, "What?" I said, "Mr. Krog." I said, "This is the White House calling."
Yeah.
He's on the President Nixon's staff. So I'm a little nervous. I'm a history major.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said, but I know how I can get in touch with him. So I called Elvis, who was really down. And first of all, this guy answered the phone, sounded kind of gruff. I knew he's from, and he said, "Who is this?" And I said, "This is Jerry Schilling. I'm a friend of Elvis's. Is he available? Hold on." So Elvis gets on the phone. He said, "Hey man, I'm not doing any good here." And I go, "Well, Elvis, I just got a call from Mr. Krogh, and the president wants to meet you." And I thought you said 30 minutes or something. And he perked up. And the kind of friend he was, though. But I think anybody else would have beelined it to the hotel. I mean, to the White House. And Elvis said, stand out in front of the hotel. I'll swing by and pick you up on the way to the White House.
He didn't even stop the car. He just scooped you up.
And I'd had Sonny come up from Graceland, because my deal with Elvis was, why Sonny's in the picture, was, Elvis, if I can call Vernon Presley, Priscilla, back at Graceland, let them know you're not kidnapped, and have Red or Sonny come up, where I can hopefully not get fired. And so Sonny's coming up, Elvis is coming in the limousine, literally jump in the car and go up to the White House.
And I get a call from the Northwest State Guard, and he said, Mr. Krogh, we have a gentleman here who looks surprisingly like Elvis Presley. What would you like me to do with him, sir? And I'm expecting an impersonator, you know, and then Chapin's going to go, I was like, gotcha, you see. But, well, in about 4 minutes, my secretary came in and said, but Elvis Presley is here, two very handsome big guys, so what do I do? Here's one of them right here. That's right.
I'm just kidding.
But at this point, you still are wondering if this is real.
I'm wondering, Tom, whether this is for real.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this just doesn't happen. And so I usher him into my office, and he sits down on the green couch, and he proceeds to tell me how much he loves his country, that he's dedicated to serving the country, wants to help the country out. He talked about going into the army, and I said, I had no idea you went to Germany and you met Priscilla, and it's just all coming out. So I was there, I know, and he's looking at me, I wonder who this guy is. So anyway, we meet for about a half an hour, and I am very impressed, because this is a solid American, and a patriotic American. So I called over to Dwight Chapin, and I asked him to go back to the hotel. I said, I don't know if I can pull it off, but let's see what we can do. And Chapin answered the phone. I said, look, this meeting has got to take place. The president has never met anyone like Elvis. Elvis has never met anyone like Nixon. So let's set this meeting up. So he gets approval from Bob Haldeman, who is the chief of staff, calls over to me and said, Bob's approved it. I called back over to the hotel. I said, can you come back over in about a half an hour? They do. I get a call from the head of the Secret Service detail. He said, Bud, we got a problem. I said, what's that? He said, Elvis has brought a gun with him. I said, oh, shoot. I didn't say exactly that, but it was close. I said, well, he didn't tell me about the gun. He said, it's a very nice gun, Bud. It's a .45 Colt automatic, but it's got bullets in the display case. You know, we don't let guns go in the Oval Office. So I had to go over, and I think you guys are a little disappointed that the Secret Service had taken the gun. Am I right on that?
Yes. But I will say this. Just to show the intelligence of Elvis Presley, and it was a commemorative World War II, Elvis was a history buff, and he knew his stuff. At the bottom of that letter, because of your book, I just recently read, he says, I have a gift for you. If you can't accept it now, maybe. So he understood.
He understood that you might not be able to take it, even though it was well earned.
That's exactly
So anyway, after we solved the gun crisis, we went into the Roosevelt room, and the Secret Service came out and said, the president will see Mr. Presley now. And so we walked into the Oval Office, and I would have thought that Elvis has entertained millions of people all over the world. He would be right at home in the Oval Office, but that was not the case. I think he felt, here I am from Tupelo, Mississippi, and I'm walking into the Oval Office, and he's looking at the eagles engraved into the ceiling, and eagles are sewn into the floor. It's a very impressive room. And so I sort of ushered him across the carpet over to the desk. The president comes around and said, how do you do, Mr. Presley? Good to meet you.
There you go.
Pretty good. There he is. This is it. That's the handshake, see? The president always would look directly at your right shoulder, so you were always trying to get in his line. Over here, Mr. President. So they shook hands, and then I don't know if you have the other picture. Well, this comes a little later, but this is the picture of after we've met with the president. This is Jerry, the second one from the right, and Sonny and the president hands there said, "You got a couple of big ones here, Elvis." That's a joke.
Yeah.
Now this is my Forrest Gump picture. Now, those of you who might remember, and this is really a cultural literacy test. Forrest is at the end of the bench, and he turns to this lady. He says, "Mama told me life was just like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get." That's what I got that morning. Elvis Presley and the president together, and I get to watch it, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't get better than that.
And Bud, what I want to say, two things before I want to go back to that other picture, but two things I want to say. Number one, it's probably one of the fastest meetings organized in White House history.
I'm sure.
From letter at the gate to walking in the Oval.
It never happened before that I've heard of, and I've never, but you have to realize, Tom, we're dealing with royalty. And a king like this coming in, I mean, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But he had a good PR guy.
He had the best PR guy on the planet right here.
Bud was the guy, the Elvis guy on the inside.
Yeah, that's right.
We had a guy on the job.
That's right.
But there's also, I've seen a thing that I went through. I went to the archives, the National Archives, and I printed out some paper. That's where I got Mr. Presley's letter. And there's another thing. There's a memo to the president that outlines who you're meeting with, and I assume this happens for all meetings, who you're meeting with, what you'll say, why that person's there, and who is to be in attendance. So there are no surprises.
Well,
and on that, in attendance, it just has Elvis Presley and Bud Crow. Two people. Only two people.
That's right. Two people. I didn't want anybody else to horn in on this. This was my deal.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks a lot, Bud.
But it worked out. But what was so interesting is that Elvis wanted to talk to the president about substantive things. And he said, Mr. President, I made a study of communist brainwashing. The president, you have? Keep it up. Good work. And then he talked a little bit about the Beatles. And then he asked this question, Tom, and Jerry remembers this. Elvis stepped forward. He said, "Mr. President, can you get me a badge from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs?" Remember, he's just come, as Jerry said, from the Bureau where he'd struck out. Now he's in the Oval Office. And the president turns to me and says, "What? Can we get him a badge?" Now, if you have no idea of what the right answer is, what should I have said? I'll look into it. But I'm dealing with the leader of the Western world, the king of rock, and I said, "Mr. President, you want to get him a badge? We can get him a badge." And the president said, "You make sure he gets a badge. I want him to have one." Elvis stepped forward, and Jerry remembers, and he hugs the president. President hugging was not the norm in that White House. This didn't happen. And then the president, and then just shows the kind of friend that Elvis Presley was. And he turns to the president. He said, "Mr. President, do you have time to see my friends Jerry Schilling and Sonny West?" The president looks at me like, "Bud, do we have time for that?" I said, "Yes, sir, we do. We sure do." "Thank you, Bud." And in they come, and this was just beautiful. And then right after this, the president went back to his desk, because in the bottom left-hand drawer, he had the gifts that he would give to visitors of the White House that came to the Oval Office, and they were arranged according to value. In the front of the drawer, you would have golf balls. Like if you won an award for best cow in your local county, before H, he said, great, good job with the cow, here's your ball. And in the relationship with the ball in college, I was cheap. Well, the president went behind the desk, and Elvis went with him. Can you believe that? And he owns the road now, doesn't he, Jerry? And so he,
I thought it was a Graceland.
one of my abiding memories are the two of them rooting through this drawer. And then Elvis said, Mr. President, they have wives and sweethearts. Dove back into the drawer. Didn't the brooch come out, Jerry? I mean, some
Brooch and cufflinks.
cuff.
The brooch is for the wives and sweethearts.
And 16-karat gold stuff came out that Elvis found in that drawer.
He knew his gold.
He knew his gold. And he did all the Christmas shopping 4 days before Christmas in the president's drawer.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know, folks, I mean, after this, I took them to lunch, Jerry and Sonny and the King, in the White House mess, which has got to be the most jaded group of people in the world. They see everybody that comes through there. Elvis walked in, and as Jerry pointed out, he's dressed a little differently than most guests to the Oval Office, the tight-fitting pants and the silk shirt, the cape. And I think you held the chair. You pulled the chair out for Elvis. Every set of eyes in that room were looking and said, my God, it's Elvis Presley. It does not get better than that on the White House staff. I want you to know
If you can, guys, let's see probably one of the most famous photos.